Hello guys, welcome to another YouTube video. Today it's not going to be a teardown, it's going to be another episode of At the Desk where I reveal my top secret processes and systems and anything that could help you learn better, work better with clients, manage your projects better. So, what we are going into today, I thought could be quite interesting. It's how I learn anything from books and actually use it. I mentioned books specifically because they're quite affordable, and but a lot of people actually either just skim reads books or reads them but never uses the lessons that they learn from them. And I'm talking specifically about non-fiction books mostly. I'm also going to mention fiction books, but for the purpose of this video we're talking mostly about non-fiction, so it can be anything from biographies, lessons, business, marketing, and so on. So let's start from the first and most important point. As a lot of the things that I do, I approach it from mindset perspective, right? So what's important here is our frame of mind where when approaching our learning. In the case of books, what I like to do is approaching them with a frame of mind of treating books as investments, as courses almost. And you only spend $30 each. We'll get into the $30 aspect in a bit, but what's important here is to treat books as investments, as courses, right? So if you think about it, you can buy a book on Amazon for $9, and one idea could change your life. So why not take it seriously? That's how we should approach our books, because honestly, we invest a lot of times in books, a lot of time, a lot of money if you buy those as many as I do. So I think it's important to approach the learning here with some urgency, some sense of being serious about them. And yeah, I think this is probably the best approach that can help you instill better learning and deeper learning as well. So take it seriously, guys. This is how we should approach books. Unless you just like reading novels in your spare time just for fun. In my case, I do that with TV shows sometimes. So yeah, to each his own. But this is the main point that I want to make. The first point that I want to make. Treat books as investments, almost as courses, and it's only $30, right? So compare it to a $2,000 video course, right? Or hiring a coach for $10,000 for 6 months, right? A book can give you almost the same return in, let's say, a month, and $30. It's quite crazy if you think about it. Second, how do you find the right books? So for this, my approach stems from a lot of consumption, but I always say that I prioritize producing over consuming, right? So what do I mean by consumption? Consumption is I try to fit my consumption with my lifestyle, right? So a lot of it is, especially lately, since I'm spending 2 hours every morning at the gym, a lot of it is listening. So I listen to audiobooks, I listen to podcasts, and I listen and watch YouTube videos in my lunch breaks. And all of this compounds and builds up a lot of knowledge that I can store, that I can use to direct my explorations. And the main sources here I mentioned are podcasts. So a lot of podcasts are interviews with people who just wrote book, like a new book, or I actually look and search for people I'm interested in to see whether they get interviewed on podcasts or on YouTube or other book recommendations, right? So whenever I'm reading a book, if they mention another book inside it, I marked it somehow, I save it. I typically use my Amazon reading list, book list for that, which is the most practical. And this is, in a way, how I collect all the books that I want to read. So if you look at my Amazon book list, there's a ton of stuff here, right? So a lot of stuff. So these are all books that I didn't read yet, that I might read, I might not. But anything that sounds interesting at this point, you want to save it, because you never know, right? It might sound interesting right now, maybe in a week doesn't look that interesting, but then in a month or two, you pop up with that idea, and oh wow, there's actually a book that I wanted to read about that. So let me explore that. So these are all, for example, I saved a while ago, I saved So Good They Can't Ignore You, and I've actually just started listening to the audiobook yesterday. So let me remove that from the list. See how it works? Pretty crazy. Anyway, this is my Amazon book reading list, so I might use this to find the next book to read. What's next? My physical book buying rule. So I typically mostly just buy ebooks, which can be Kindle books or Apple books. So you can see my Apple book collection here. This is pretty extensive as well. A lot of these I haven't read yet, but I will get to at some point. But yes, my physical book buying rule is I typically buy ebooks, and I want to buy physical books, which I have a couple here. This is one of my favorite, Alchemy. I have Breakthrough Advertising. These are my Bibles. So the rule is that I only buy the physical copy whenever I can't find the ebook, whenever I want to keep it. So most of these cases, I already read the book and I want to have a physical copy just because I want to keep it with me. Maybe I want to live it more, explore it more, take notes inside the book because I want the concepts to stay in my mind a bit more. So that's my way of doing that. And I also think it's nice to have a couple of books that for you are the books in your room that you always take a look at. And the other factor, it's whenever it's fiction. I like reading novels, fiction, mostly on physical copies, and that's because I don't know. There's something about the smell of paper, taking you into a journey, reading a physical book, relaxing, not looking at a screen light, and that's mostly because I usually, if I read fiction, I read it in bed most of my days in the evening, so it's nice and relaxing. Next, so yeah, I mostly just buy electronic books, and we'll see in a bit why. Skimming contents from Amazon, look inside. So another way that I decide which books to actually get, it's whenever I save them in my lists, in my wish lists. And let's say that I want to see, okay, let's say I want to see whether this is good to buy or not. When you go on Amazon for the Kindle, you'll in most cases you'll have, if they have the electronic version, they'll have the look inside function here, so you can click on it and you can see the table of contents, so you can actually start seeing, okay, what is this book talking about? Is it something that can interest me? Do I see myself reading this for the next month or two? How long is it as well? And in most cases, you can actually go and read through the entire introduction, which is a great way to start exploring the topics. A lot of times, the authors offer synopses, recaps of each chapter in the introduction, so that's good. You can see there's a lot of stuff here that you can actually read. So use this functionality to decide whether this is a book that can work for you at this specific moment in time, because that's the other important factor to consider. Is this particular book helpful, useful for you in this particular moment in time. Think about it, because a lot of times you might think, oh, maybe this sounds interesting if I start reading, listening to it in the next, like today, tomorrow, but is this something that I want to keep thinking about it for the next month or two? Is this something that I want to take up space in my mind? That's the other important factor. So use the look inside function that Amazon offers, and then buy the audio plus ebook. This is why I mentioned $30 each. So you can see the typical book could range from $5 to $9, $10. So why 30? Because whenever I'm decided and I want to buy a book, I typically buy both the ebook and the audiobook versions. And that's because I want to maximize the optionality in my learning. I want to be able to kind of learn in any situation. And also, I find it quite faster to actually listen to books and take notes while listening, and then going into the electronic version to actually cement my ideas, highlight stuff that stood with me. So that's why I think the combination of audio and electronic is very. And again, $30, guys, it's nothing for one idea that could potentially change your life. Next point, take notes, jotting down quick points from audio or highlighting in ebooks. And this is what I was talking about. So, just as an example, you can see this is kind of my collection of notes. What I have pinned here are the notes that I use the most, right? And some of them are books like Titan, which is the Rockefeller biography, Amazon Unbound, Never Finished by David Goggins, So Good They Can't Ignore You, which I was just talking about. And you can see I've got notes in here, bullet points. All of these bullet points are notes that I basically just write in while I'm listening to the audiobook. So whenever I'm at the gym, in my breaks between one set and the other, and I hear something interesting from the audiobook, what I do is jot down that quick idea. The secret here is to you don't have to use entire paragraph to copy, write down entire paragraphs. What I do is using specific words that I know I can go back to. So for example, I never finished, shifted gears into straight up monk mode. I know that he uses the specific words monk mode. So what I will be doing, let's give you an example. I know that this, I have it on Kindle. I'm going to copy monk mode here, open up, fire up my Kindle app. And in my Kindle app, I'm gonna open up the book and I'm going to search for those specific words. Monk mode. Boom, found it. And you can see that I find the exact highlight node that I want to keep. So I can go ahead and highlight it. As always, my ace in the hole throughout the process. Blah, blah, blah. I shifted gears into straight up monk mode. My whole existence revolve around training, recovery, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to save this specific highlight. Sometimes it's a bit of a mess. Let's go back. Let's say that I'm gonna just save this. All right, so yeah, done. This helps me basically remind myself of the vital points, the core lessons that I've gotten from the audiobook, which is very helpful. And also, it's a great way if you're only reading the electronic book, what might be the Kindle or the Apple books. What I found was that I usually tended to highlight a lot of stuff and I was kind of overwhelmed by all the highlights. While using this process, you're kind of forced to exclude a lot of stuff because you're listening to the audiobook and you cannot stop every single second to take notes, right? So what you do is jotting down just the core ideas, the core elements that you've just learned, and you actually filter out anything that's might feel interesting, important, but it actually isn't. And it isn't because it didn't stick with you. So if something sticks, I think it's worth jotting down and saving. And that's why I like using the combination of audio and electronic as well. Next, organize and store your notes. For this, I use a combination of this tool called Readwise, which is awesome. It basically synchronized most of the note taking apps with electronic books or even read later apps. They have their own read later app called Readwise. If you want to check it out, you can save articles, newsletters here, which is awesome. But for example, let's look at a quick example. These are notes, highlights actually, that Readwise synchronized for me today. So you can see we got highlights from these books that weren't synchronized. No rules, 1 plus 1 equals 3. So these are all highlights from some of these books that I have here, which I'm reading now. So 1 plus 1 is this one, and so on. So you can see that I'm basically storing all my notes. And if I look for highlights specifically, all of these are book highlights. So we can go, for example, which is one book that has a lot of highlights. For example, let's just pick everything store. There's a lot. Yeah, this book, I mean, these were the highlights that he collected today. But if we go on our reading list as well, books that I've read, Mind Reader, all of these are highlights that it's synchronized. So having a place where you can actually store and organize the kind of a system for your highlights, it's critical if you want to later go back and actually absorb, understand, and use the notes. By the way, if you want a separate video on how I built this system, just let me know and I'll make you a separate video. What do we have next? Go back to your notes and use progressive summarization. So for this, I recommend, and I'm going to link to this in the description, this great article and the system that Tiago Forte at Forte Labs built, which is called progressive summarization. Basically, the idea is once you've saved and collected all your notes, you have to kind of go back to them and revisit them several times. It's not just one skim through the notes. You go back once, you highlight something, you go back a second time, you narrow down your highlights, and then a third time, and make those highlights even more concise, and then actually end up writing about them. So in my case, for example, these highlights, I might go back to them once. Let's say that I'm highlighting this whole paragraph, and this might be the first skim. Let's say I'm highlighting this one as well. Then I set it aside and come back, let's say in a month. In a month, I might go back and see, oh, this was the most important one. Let me reread it. Actually, this sentence is even more important. So I'm gonna select this. So now, anytime that I go back, I have the 1 or 2 or 3 concepts that actually can have a huge impact on my learning, on my work, on my life. And I can see what those concepts are instantly just by looking at the notes and finding the most highlighted ones. So this is kind of this progressive summarization overview if you want, but I highly recommend you to check out that article. And then finally, what do we have? Write about it. So for me, writing about it means either writing on social media, writing on my daily newsletter. So for example, I have my page here. This is my daily newsletter we've got to 256 issues. And yeah, whenever I have notes from books or anything, I just typically use my mornings to write about stuff that's in my head. So for me, this is kind of an anchor to help me learn and absorb anything that I read. For you, it can be anything else, like I mentioned, writing on social media. And I tweeted yesterday about the benefits, the side effects of daily writing: better thinking, better discipline, more better ideas, more self awareness, more confidence, more humility. Writing daily, especially, really helps you understand that you don't know shit. And that's actually one thing that I think it's really important to cultivate, that humility, because it keeps you learning, keeps you growing, and that's what you want, kind of that fire under your ass. Then we have better problem solving and increased productivity, right? So these are some of the elements that I mentioned here about the writing part. And that's why it's super important not only reading stuff, but actually creating. And as I was mentioning at the beginning, always think about producing more than you consuming. So even though this video was about reading, ultimately in the end, we end up writing and creating something out of it. That's the most important part. And the part that I was mentioning here, in actually use it. Whenever you read something, it's always important to actually use whatever you read. Cool. The other thing that I actually didn't mention is always keep running reading lists. So for me, I showed you this. Just a quick overview. What I do is basically I have the in progress books, I have this year's books, I have the to read books, and the past years. So you can see kind of how many books I read every year, but it's not just about the number, it's all about the themes as well. So I can go back to every book and kind of get an understanding for, yeah, well, what were the themes? What was I thinking about every year? And what shaped my ideas, and was it helpful or not, right? So for example, this year we got these in progress, we got a couple other ones, and I also like to separate these in four categories. So we have biographies, non-fiction life, non-fiction work, and fiction. So this is just a quick example, maybe you can take it and use it. And that's pretty much about it, guys. This is how I learn and use books. Let's not waste them. If you have any ideas, just share them, like and subscribe if this was helpful, and we'll speak soon in the next video.